Hi, this is Rossi Eason from the Restore Black America Foundation. And for those of you that have been following what we've been doing, you know I'm a huge proponent of entrepreneurship and economic empowerment. And one of the key concepts to economic empowerment is the idea of coming together as a collective. One thing we must do is try to collaborate with others who are doing the same things or trying to achieve the same goals or moving in the same direction. So with that being said, I wanted to get Brother Lou on the line today. Brother Lou actually runs an organization out of New York called Black Wallets Matter that actually promotes black economic empowerment, which is obviously something that we need. So I wanted to get Brother Lou on the line today so we can kind of discuss some of these social economic issues going on in our community, as well as to bring some additional solutions to the table as well. So without further ado, Brother Lou, are you there?
Yes, peace, brother. Peace, brother Rossi.
Hey, Peace. How you doing, man? It's great to have you on today. For those of you who don't know, someone who's never heard of you or your organization, could you maybe start out by giving us a little bit about yourself, maybe a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and some of your professional experiences as well?
All right, cool. So, so my brother Lou from Black Wallets Matter. My name is Louis Gamble. But at Black Wallets Matter, we address one another as brother and sister out of a show of respect and out of solidarity. I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, probably even longer than that, actually. But I mean, like officially, I started my first official business was a barbershop in Brooklyn. From there, I moved into real estate. And then the music industry as well. So, some people may know me as Boo Blades for my brief music career. And then I got into real estate, and I want to say around 2005, I started really paying attention to what was going on in the online space because I wanted to be able to promote my music. And as I started learning more, I started realizing that more business was being conducted online. It was a better environment, especially for budding entrepreneurs. And so I've been focused in that space since about 2005. And right now, I run a digital agency, a digital marketing and consulting agency called Brainwave Media. So,
okay.
Right. So Black Wallets Matter. So that was a thing of mine. It was an idea. It had some seeds when I was a teenager looking around. So I'm from Brooklyn, and it was the reputation of Brooklyn, a rough place or whatever. I found myself in some trouble as a teenager, and while I was away doing what paying my time, paying my dues, I decided to use that time to rebuild myself. I decided to use that time to read and to try to really figure out why I was in that situation. And it dawned on me that there were certain things that were put in place that you walk out your front door, there were really no opportunities. Your friend would hand you either a gun or a pack. You understand? Instead of saying, "Hey, come on and come on, let's go someplace and prepare for a job or train for a job or whatever that." So that kind of stuck with me, and as I became, I guess, an upstanding member of society, if you want to call it, a pillar of my community, especially through my barbershop, I was like, you know what, we have to give back. I don't want I don't want the youth to take the path that I took, and some of my friends. And so I was thinking, like, well, how do we address that? And all the different ideas and everything that all the different social plans or whatever we come up with, we were like, we can't do anything without money. And it was like, you know what, man, we're going to have to really pool our resources. There's only so much that one person can do. So I said, we're going to actually have to pool our resources. And then, after this Black Lives Matter thing happened with, all the police brutality and all these other things happening, it really dawned on me, like, you know what, our black wallets really, really matter. Because if we want to stop any of these things, we're going to have to pool our resources. We're going to have to put our money where our mouth is. And, that's basically what the organization is. So, okay. And so our mission,
definitely.
Right, our mission is, this movement, we just basically believe that the black community can fix its own problems if we start using the power of the black dollars we already have. So it's estimated that we have about $1.3 trillion a year, $1.4 trillion a year in spending power. If we were able to pool those resources and focus them properly, we could solve the problems of unemployment. We can solve the problems of poverty. We can solve the problems of police brutality, through political influence. And so that's basically what this organization was created to do.
No, that's a really interesting insight, and you actually did answer my next question, because I was going to ask you, out of your experiences, what sort of led you to start the Black Wallets Matter movement. So I'm glad you were able to clarify that, because you're absolutely right. Economics is really important. So with that being said, considering that you've been able to identify that, in your opinion, why don't more black people come together economically, and what can we do about it? I mean, I know that that's an age-old question, but I am curious to know, what your perspective is on that, and also maybe what some solutions would be to sort of solve that issue we have of coming together as a collective.
Okay, so I think the biggest problem that we have, so it's a lack of solidarity, right? A lack of unity, but that stems from a lack of trust. So I grew up, I was born in the 70s, and I'm an 80s baby. When I grew up, your mother, if she left out, and it got late, let's say she got stuck at work, your neighbor, someone down the hall, they would feed you, they would give you money to do whatever it is you need to do. They would babysit you without charging your mother, right? So there was more of a collective, more of a neighborhood vibe, more of a community type feel. And then somewhere like in the mid 80s when crack hit, man, that just destroyed. I mean, I'm talking about from my perspective. When crack hit, that destroyed the black community. So that bred distrust amongst people who were once really, really close. People were breaking into homes of people they know. Kids were turning on parents, and so parents had to become really guarded. In the age when my parents grew up, the parents, they would never in a million years think that their children would steal from them. So that's one of the biggest issues one of the biggest factors that I think contributed to the lack of unity, or to the breaking up of the unity and the sense of community that we had. In terms of solutions, I believe that black people we were so distrustful. I believe that some organization, somebody is going to have to come together and put forth a proof element first. They're going to have to do something big. They're going to have to do something selfless for the black community, and the black community is going to look at it and say, wow, they're really getting results. I can get behind that. And then that's just what's going to be the concept. It's going to be something that the black community values, because along with the dissolution of the unity in the black community, at the same time, we had an opposing force of consumerism being forced upon us by the powers that be. And so as we've all adopted this sense of consumerism, it's like we only want to spend our money if we're able to get something back, some new shiny gadget, or some kind of experience or whatever. So I think that the solution is going to come in the form of some kind of value, something that really moves people, or something that gives them some kind of value, and then they'll be able to put their money behind it. And then once they do that, it's the responsibility of whoever the person is that creates whatever let's say if it's a business or whatever organization, it's going to be the responsibility of that organization person to be a good fiduciary, to take that money and do with it what they say. To, someone who truly loves the black community and truly wants it to be repaired and rebuilt, and they're going to take that money that they get from the black community, from the people that are contributing, and then they're going to use it to create another proof element, or another I don't even know what it would. So we have one of our plans are what do we call community resource centers. That's what we're calling it. And It's basically going to have job training. It's going to have a place for the kids to play and not be on the streets, and things like that. Once the organization or whoever it is creates these things, the black community is going to get behind it 100%. I have no doubt. I have that much faith in our people.
That's good. You brought up a really interesting point about proof, because you know what? You're absolutely right. If you've come, let's say you were born past a certain point, a lot of times you don't know what certain things look like. You had brought up the whole sort of the neighborhood concept. You know, when I was growing up, my mother used to tell me that all the time, that, you know, the entire neighborhood would raise a child. So, for example, if somebody saw you acting out, you know, and your parents weren't around, you know, they would beat you and they, you know, until your parents got home, kind of thing. And it was kind of, but they had a right to do that because it was more like a village concept. You know, me, I came, you know, later on, so I've never seen that. I've never grew up in an environment where, I didn't grow up in that era. You understand me? I grew up in the era where you don't even know your neighbors. And so, you think about that. If you come past a certain point, you don't know what that looks like. And so it's that was a really good point about having proof, because I think that a lot of times we as people, we need to see what that looks like in order for us to sort of follow that program. So that was a really interesting point. And with that being said, too, I want to kind of build on that, because one thing, since we're talking about economics and coming together as a collective, I noticed on your website you talked about gentrification a little bit, which is something that seems to be sort of happening everywhere in the U.S. My question to you would be, what steps can Black people take to either help prevent gentrification, or at least somehow benefit from the improvement of their own neighborhoods without actually being kicked out of it?
Well, okay, so let's look at what gentrification really is, right? So it's people from other areas, and you know, specifically in New York. Like, I know what it looks like in New York, so it may be something different in, you know, Atlanta, Detroit, or whatever, right? They're coming there because New York has money, New York has jobs, and they moved. So Manhattan was too expensive to live, and so they started moving into Brooklyn. But what happened was they moved into Brooklyn, and then they made all this investment in the community. They made all this investment in the properties. And the same properties that people had that were $200,000, $300,000, they're now worth 1.3, 1.5, and all of this craziness. All Black people had to do was reinvest back into their own community. All they had to do, curb appeal means so much. I mean, you can get a feel when you walk into a neighborhood where the streets are clean. I mean, you can walk down a block and turn the corner, and if the grass is cut and the streets are clean, you get a different feeling.
Right.
And that is something that the Black community could have done on their own. And so that would increase the value. So let's say you can't do it for all areas, right? But you get like a big group, especially like in Bed-Stuy, you know, so you get like a big enclave. You have an enclave of Black people that are taking care of their properties. Let's say they're building up all around. When it's time to come and buy your property, or they offer you these crazy amounts for your money, that's actual real value that you can borrow against. That's equity. You take out the equity, and now you go and you start investing in Black businesses. And then now you're able, because now everyone's property is so valuable. You guys are rich. Like, everyone in the stock. Like, I mean, oh man, it killed me, man. I'm watching all these Black people with these homes, and they were like 200 and 300, and they're worth like 1.3 and 2 million, and some of them are even 3 million. And they sold out, and they took 700,000, 800,000, left New York, or moved to like East New York, which is a little bit more run down, Brownsville, you know, someplace cheaper. And then the white people came in and just built it up and took it to the next level. When you guys, we could have just taken our money and just reinvested in our own community and had all that wealth. That would have been so beautiful. So beautiful. You would have literally had, Brooklyn is really, really heavily populated. Maybe 200,000 rich Black people, millionaires, easily, in one little square pocket. Could you imagine how different the stores would have been? How different community centers could have been created. Oh man, bro. Oh man.
Yeah, that's a really interesting.
Man. I'm sorry.
No, that's true, because one thing you'll notice, a lot of times if you're going the ghettos across America, a lot of times they actually have the best view. You know, you mentioned living in New York. If you stand on top of some of those project buildings, they have great views of the city and the water and things like that. And like you said, people will pay big money for that. if you just realize what you're sitting on top of, which is really really interesting. I'm sorry, you going to say something?
Bed-Stuy was like the Harlem of Brooklyn. We had a strip, Fulton Avenue, Fulton Street.
Right.
Fulton Street run all the way down. It was all black businesses. All black businesses. And either side, whether you're going up towards Atlantic Avenue or going down towards like DeKalb or one of those other streets going down the hill.
Right.
It was just all black people, all black businesses. It was like when I was growing up. I mean, so you had that, and then you had the Spanish guys who may have had the store, but everything else was ours. We had that. And my father, we had a brownstone. Brought the brownstone for 100 and almost close to 200, and left. And yeah, man, and we knew the Barclays Center. We knew that was coming. So once they built the arena, we knew everything was going to go crazy.
Right.
Man, bro. Oh, bro. No, I mean, my family personally, we made a few moves. So I'm not gonna say, but I'm just thinking about us like as a collective.
As a collective.
Right. Because they're saying the wealth. When you see the signs of gentrification, hold on to your properties, let it increase, take out a home equity loan if you need to, improve the facade of your property, upgrade your property, and have it increase in value as well. Enjoy the increase. Use it to our advantage. One of the biggest things that I say that I believe is going to have to happen for us to change what's going on in the state of affairs in the black community, we're going to have to use what is. We're not going to change anyone's mind. We're going to have to take people's existing behavior. We're going to have to take the current things we're going to have to take things that are currently happening, and we're going to have to use that. We're going to have to figure out a way to use it to our advantage. And man, yeah, brother, it's the only way. It's the only way. I am totally 100% convinced. Outside of some phenomenon, some weird, crazy, mystical thing happening, but in terms of practicality and in terms of actual application, I am 100% convinced that the only way something is going to change is if we're able to harness people's existing behavior. The pocket of the conscious community of people who actually want to do something. It's kind of small. We're small. We're distributed too far. We're all over the country. Some of us feel, hey, listen, I got away from the crabs in the barrel. There's no way I'm going back there because I know they're going to pull me down. So,
you know what? And I'm glad you said that. And that kind of leads me to my next question. This is what I was going to ask you. You know, one thing I know of what I've seen, if you sort of if you try to clean up a neighborhood without cleaning up the mentality of the people who live in that neighborhood, a lot of times all they're going to do is turn it back into the ghetto, which is a hard thing for us to accept and deal with. So my question to you would be, assuming that we do start to, reinvest in our neighborhood, what are some of the things that you think we can do to prevent that from happening again?
Well, okay, so not too long ago, long ago, I don't know, maybe 1992, I don't know how many years ago that was. So I was a knucklehead in the 90s. I'm being honest, right? So I was a knucklehead in like 89, 90, 91. Crime, that I don't care attitude, giving the children, giving the youth something to do was very, very important. Providing training or employment opportunities. Providing so let's say everyone decides to go and pull some money out and reinvest. A collective is going to have to create. They're going to need these community resource centers. They're going to have to take care of themselves. They're going to have to create an outlet for the youth. And not just the basketball. I have nothing against sports, but that's not really useful. Training, teach these kids plumbing, electricity, roofing, whatever, right? Because, so if all this gentrification is going on, all this building is going on, these new properties are going to need maintenance. It's going to have a problem. So that's an opportunity right then and there. The other thing, community. I don't know if you remember this, or if if this existed, but we used to have tenant patrol. So Miss Pat and Miss Mary, they used to put on like the I forgot we call them swish, but they put on like the jacket, the tenant patrol jacket, and they would go out and they would have a flashlight and they would just walk around. They know everyone by their first name. Daquan Jenkins, I see you over there, boy. What are you doing? I'm gonna tell your mother. Brenda gonna know about this as soon as she get off the train. So we need that again. So they would need to reinvest, right? And that's without getting law enforcement involved, right? So Daquan Jenkins gets a pass from someone who understands that, okay, he's throwing bottles and rocks because he's bored, instead of cops coming and locking him up for something crazy and ruining his life. And then we also have the problem of drugs and the addicts. And, brother, I'll be honest with you, I don't have a solution for that. I don't, because I know what is driving these brothers to do what they're doing. There's always going to be drug use because of the hopelessness and despair, right? We're never going to be able to save everyone. I guess the best we could do is something like The Wire and be like, go over to Amsterdam, create like one little area. Y'all keep it over there. Yeah, just keep it over there. We take it. I mean, that's about as best as I could figure it out in regards to that.
No, I think you hit it right on the head. I mean, I think coming to the community with some of these solutions and resources will actually give people hope, because you're right. A lot of times, due to hopelessness, due to stress, due to poverty, a lot of these things make black people susceptible to drug uses. And with the lack of economic opportunity, the selling of the drugs becomes more attractive when you don't have any other opportunities. So I definitely agree with you. I think with some of those community centers or some of the stuff we're doing down here, we'll open up some of these entrepreneur schools, will actually give people the opportunity to actually have some hope and to sort of lead them away from that. I mean, I agree with you. I think that's probably the best we could do as far as that. Because, there's just some things you don't have control over, but there are some things you do. So, but no, it's interesting. Now, I want to kind of I want to dig into this a little further. Now, I remember earlier when we spoke, you mentioned that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe you used to rent out apartment buildings, or I know you had some
rental properties,
rental properties, and I know you had some interesting things to say about that experience. Could you talk a little bit more about what your experience was like being a landlord in the black community?
Man, some of your listeners, man, they may. It was terrible. My experience was terrible. And you know what? I suggest that every single black person owns either a business or some rental property in the black community, and try to help our brothers and sisters. So they have this thing where they're talking about buy the block, right? So you see it on Facebook. So I actually brought the block. I actually brought whatever was available within 3 blocks, right? So I had about 15 units, and
wow,
this, I mean, I went to him. So there was this landlord. He was a white guy. He was a lawyer, and everyone knew, he was a slumlord, or he was treating people, mean, and he didn't take no crap and whatever else, and he didn't want to understand people's situation. I went in. This is when, when I was doing the music thing, and so, everything was good. Went in and brought his portfolio, whatever he was selling. And I stepped in and said, don't worry about it. I'm here. I'm going to take care of everything. I'm your brother. Just give me a list of everything that needs to be fixed and, blah, blah, blah. So I go around. I'm getting a list. I'm hearing the complaints. I'm like, yes, sister, I know, because, unfortunately, most of my tenants were single mothers and, things like that. So make this list. Like, within 2 months, the problem started. One sister goes, she gives me this long list of things that she wants done. I get them done. Then she gives me a 2-week notice. So these my units were Section 8. She gives me the notice, 2-week notice. Oh, I'm moving out of the unit, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I just did all of this special renovation for you. right? So, according to the criteria for Section 8, I don't have to put in ceiling fans. I don't have to put in fancy doors. I don't have to do any of this. I did this for you because I'm expecting us to have a long-term relationship. So that was that. I had another tenant where, so she was an older lady and she had custody of her granddaughter. The mother was on drugs. She goes out to work. The young guys broke into the house. And the whole, I don't even want to get into that, but let's just say they were assaulting this girl at gunpoint. The grandmother walks into the house. They back the grandmother down and make her just wait while they continue doing what they're doing.
No.
Yeah, bruh. So she, when she told me what happened, it was a whole big thing. She obviously ran for the hills. I didn't blame her. She moved down south somewhere. Brother, the problems I had. Oh my God, I had another tenant. She had a boyfriend. She had him now, baby father, but Section 8, so he's not supposed to be there. I didn't have a problem. I already know. I know how it is. It wasn't a problem with me. So he gets locked up. And she tells me she's having a hard time making her portion of the rent and whatever else. I said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And I said, listen, I'll help you out on the water bill and I'll do whatever. So the summertime is rolling around. The water bill, I get the water bill. The water bill is $1,100. I'm like, what in the world? I immediately go see what's going on. So now this particular unit had a walk-in basement. You driving, you going through the driveway, and you walk right into the unit on the basement level. She moved everything out of the driveway and had an above-ground pool. And inside, she moved all the furniture and had one of those little waiting pools for the kids, and was throwing like a party and was serving drinks and had music and everything, like running a juke joint out the place,
like a pool party. In the apartment.
And washing clothes. Got bags of clothes looking like the laundry. Got loads of clothes sitting over there burning out the motor on the washing machine. And so I told her, I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. She get the F out my house. She was like a guy. She was telling me eat a D and all that. It was like, yo, get the F out my house, eat a D. Yeah, for real. So I said, I'm going down to Section 8 first thing in the morning. Well, first thing Monday morning. Go down to Section 8. They give her the notice. She put a hole in every last single wall in that unit. Like in a closet, there's 3 walls in a closet and a ceiling. She put a hole in all 4 of them, man.
Oh, my goodness.
Petty. She petty. Oh, man. Yeah, I got stories for days, man. Oh, man, I got stories. I had a tenant. She had 2 baby fathers, 3 baby fathers. And so one was like a real tough guy. He was locked up. He came home. The other guy is there living with his kid. And he tells him, yo, I don't want you around my kid. He's like, yo, bro, what are you talking about? This is my kid. He's like, I'm mad. He's like, all right, when I come back around, you better not be here. He came back around, killed the dude right there on the property. He just killed the dude.
Oh, wow.
Right there. I was like. Then I had another incident that was similar. Another tough guy, another girl with different baby fathers. The tough guy, he comes home. The guy's in there with his kids. He didn't even wait. He didn't even come back. He immediately kicked in the door, broke the windows. He kicked down the door and broke the frame down to where you can see the cinder blocks. He went in that house and he beat up everybody that was not his kid. He beat up the guy. He beat up the girl. He beat up their kids. He bust the girl head through the wall, and the child services came, and they locked them up, and then they put a warrant out for my arrest for endangering the welfare of the children because of how the condition of the unit.
Oh my goodness!
It was like, oh my God, there's no windows. I'm like, this guy broke out the window. I literally had to go to court, put your hands behind your back. You're being arraigned for endangering the welfare of the children. I was on my way to California, matter of fact, and was coming from another case with another tenant, and just so happened to hear my name called. Well, my cousin told me they were calling my name down the hall. I said, but that's like the criminal court. I was like, I don't have nothing to do. He's like, I don't know. I heard you call your name. Yeah, bruh. Trust our people put me through it, and I tried to help.
You feel like you got yourself in a situation because of them. They got you in the gym because he kicked in the door waving the 4-4, so to speak.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Oh man.
So when our people start talking about oh, you don't understand, and start making excuses, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. I have spent a lot of money actually putting my money where my mouth is. You don't understand. Our people will treat you just as bad or even worse than the white man because you're trying to be so caring and understanding. So I'm back at it again.
I was going to say, no, that's true, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring that up for listeners to hear, the struggle for people like yourself who have taken on this particular work. That this isn't easy. People have to know that it comes with a tremendous amount of sacrifice in order for us to sort of do what we do. So I just wanted to bring that, but I do want to go, and kind of continue on with that as well, as far as that's concerned, because we were talking about this concept, and you're talking about some of the things that you endured as a landlord going on in the community. So since we're on the subject of neighborhoods, one thing that we know about black neighborhoods is that they're also policed at a much higher rate. As you can see, which has always created some tension between the black community and the police force. And as you know, thanks to social media, we've seen an uprise in cop killings. And again, I say that because we know that they've been going on, but we've been now more of a witness to it thanks to camera phones and things of that nature. But considering that we're discussing some of the ideas that in order for black lives to matter, that black wallets also have to matter, from your perspective, how does our economic position affect our political position?
Okay, great. I'm glad you asked that. So that is the third leg of what Black Wallets Matter is about, right? So we're about addressing unemployment. We're about addressing poverty, because 78% of the people living at or below the poverty line in America are single black women, and we are about addressing this wave of racially motivated police brutality. And so the only way that we will really be able to affect change is if we are to create some kind of political influence. There's a law on the books. It's called the Enforcement Act of 1870. It's changed over the years. It's section something now or whatever, but it's still there. And that law was on the books specifically to protect people of color from law enforcement. And it was used successfully back in the days. There was a sheriff sheriff somewhere in Georgia, I believe, or Alabama or wherever, and he beat this man and he killed him, and he was prosecuted successfully and he was sent to jail. But because that man was the sheriff, because he had money, I also want to include because he was white, but I mean, he wouldn't have been convicted in the first place. That's how I look at it. But he was able to get out and, like, on some loopholes, on some technicality. And then what he did was it kind of changed the verbiage, or kind of changed like the meaning of what it was. So it was like the intent. So basically they were saying when he beat this man, it was not his intent to kill this man, is basically what they were saying. And so I'm like, what? But because there was no one to challenge that, no black people to challenge that, it just went on. And now because we have no one that is actually fighting for us, like from a legal, like using the system the way that they use the system, right? With lawyers and lobbyists, right? Because so no one is digging this up, no one is uncovering that. And that's one of the first things that we want to do, with Black Wallets Matter. We want to hire lawyers to go in and look at these things. The other thing we want to do is we want to hire lobbyists. We want our lobbyists to go in and revisit this. And if they have to push the law around, change the verbiage and whatever else, reverse it back. That's what we're going to have to do. One of the other things that we wanted to do is we wanted to make the police department, especially those that have had racial incidents, we wanted to make them more accountable. We wanted them to have some kind of federal oversight. And before Obama and Eric Holder, before the Attorney General, the old Attorney General, they had consent decree agreements with Baltimore and Ferguson, where the Michael Brown incident happened. And basically what the police officers did in response to those consent decrees, because basically that meant there was oversight on their policing practices and things like that. They started depolicing, which means they were just not going into those black communities. They were just leaving them. If something happened, there were incidences where people were calling 911, and they're like, well, 911 isn't answering, or 911 is busy. Like that kind of craziness, right?
Wow.
So, yeah. So we wanted to implement something like that. We wanted to make that like nationwide, or we wanted to just be like hawks every time something happened. But this new Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, he repealed this. He repealed those consent decrees. Now here's the bad news. When the police began depolicing, our brothers and sisters acted the fool. The murder rate, the violent crime rate spiked. I think it was something like 400%. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was something like that. It spiked crazy. So it basically says if we don't have the police, even though they're cracking our heads, if we don't have the presence, it would actually be worse. People don't know how to behave themselves.
So they use it as justification.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, man. We got a lot of work to do, man. We got a lot of work to do, brother. And I had a spreadsheet that I was keeping with some of these problems on them, and just looking them over, a lot of it became sad. It actually put a bad taste in my mouth. Yeah, I'm serious. Thinking of all the things that we have to address. I don't even want to get into the music. I don't even want to get into. I can't get into the mentality. I can't get into the sagging pants. It's just too much. So
it's bad.
So at our organization, we have come to the conclusion that this is going to be a multi-generational process, and it's going to have to start with the babies. This generation, this youth generation, we're going to have to kind of like just chalk it up, man. We're going to have to forget, and we're going to have to start over. We're going to have to start with the babies. Maybe, I don't even know how young they would be. But our plan is to create, like you said, like a culture, right? So we didn't go into the details like how your plan is with the culture, which I think is excellent. We had just the rough idea of trying to reinvent what it means to be black for our children, and then teach them that they need to have integrity, teach them nonviolence, right? So we have an organization that this organization actually stemmed from, called Wheelchairs Against Guns, where we go into the schools in New York City and other urban places, and we teach the kids conflict resolution strategies. We build and reinforce positive self-esteem and help them feel loved, because some of these kids say that they don't feel loved. And so by using these kinds of strategies, helping them out, they're given tools to go out there and be a little bit more successful in life, especially in the environments that they live in. So,
right, okay, that sounds really good, and you're right. We absolutely do have our work cut out for us. So, with that being said, if somebody wanted to get more information about the Black Wallets Matter movement, where could they go to get more information, or how could they join your particular movement?
Okay, so the website is www.blackwalletsmatter.org. And so you would go to the homepage there, or we have a full presentation. We call it the Blueprint, the financial blueprint to help Black America save itself. And if you click on the menu button there, you will see a link that says the Blueprint. You can watch the Blueprint. It will outline our full plan from soup to nuts exactly how we plan on doing what it is that we want to do. So like I said, using existing behavior. So one of the biggest things that, we all know, Black people, we're really large consumers. We're really large shoppers, right? We're big spenders. So we wanted to kind of use that predisposition to spending. We wanted to use that to benefit our brothers and sisters. Excuse me. And then what we would do from there is we would buy existing businesses. So rather than creating businesses from scratch, we would buy businesses that already have a track record, already have profits built in and things like that. And the reason why we want to do that is because a lot of our brothers and sisters they want to start businesses, they want to run them, but we really don't know how, because these are not things that are passed on to us from generation to generation to generation. If you look at a lot of the mom and pop businesses, they've been passed down from the grandfather to the son so the kids grow up in the game. The kids grow up knowing that business. But if we go and acquire a business, the person that we buy, usually you'll see something where it says the owner will stay on to train for 6 months or whatever it is. So that will allow us to hit the ground running. We take the profits from that, and we're looking at large businesses, right? So we're not talking about like really little small shops and things like that. We're talking about large manufacturing companies or chains and things like that. We're able to put hundreds or even thousands of our brothers and sisters to work using that method there. And then from there, we would go into our social projects, like I said, so with the community resource centers and hiring the lawyers and the lobbyists. So the foundation of Black Wallets Matter is a member association. And the purpose of the member association is to address one of the main problems that we have as a people, and that is a lack of unity. The member association is like a union, just like the carpenters union or the plumbers or the pipe fitters union. And so when people become members, they get benefits. I don't want to go into the benefits now, but we have things like business training and, some of the things kind of like you have, where we have like a success training course so that you can get in the right mental state, the right headspace to succeed and things like that. And we're working on like trips and, all these other different things. Our membership dues are 10 at the silver level, 25 at the gold, 50 at platinum. And the reason we collect these dues is so that we can have a sustainable base of funds that we control. And with that fund, with those numbers, with the membership dues, that will allow us to go out and buy these businesses. That will allow us to be able to hire these lawyers. That will allow us to open these community resource centers. And so those are the proof elements that the Black community is going to need to see before they get behind it wholeheartedly. And our goal is 1 million members over the next 3 to 5 years. Right now, we're driving for 2,000 members because we believe with 2,000 members, we'll be able to do something substantial to provide that first proof element. So how we talked about, they see something and they're like, oh, okay, cool, wait, that works. So with 2,000 members, we would have enough funds to provide the first proof element to the Black community. And it would just snowball from there. So
okay, all right.
That's good. And when I say these membership, right? So there's 42 million Black people in this country. We only need 1 million is roughly 2.3%. So 2 to 3% of the population is all we need to help the other 97. Right. So the small little amount of us could actually wind up helping the rest. And I mean, with 1 million members, we could be looking at something like $300 million a year in revenue and dues. And with $300 million a year, you can get a $1 to $2 billion loan. You can probably get more, especially if it's focused on business. But we know a big chunk of that is going to go into lobbyists and lawyers and things like that. And we really can change what's going on in the black community with that kind of money. And we don't need Oprah, and we don't need Jay-Z, and we don't need Beyonce. We can do it amongst ourselves.
No, I definitely agree with that. No, definitely. I mean, I think that sounds like a really good program. So I do want to encourage everybody or anyone who's listening to this to definitely take a look at your organization. And I do want to encourage people, too, to just get active in the community somehow, regardless of who you decide to partner up with. Don't wait until the next cop killing happens, or wait till you get that phone call from the jail that, your son's been locked up. Don't wait till the drugs hit your community or it hits one of your relatives. Let's definitely be proactive in some of the things we're doing, just like yourself. So I definitely want to commend you on what you're doing, and I do want to encourage everyone to take a look at your organization. And with that being said, once again, I do want to encourage everyone to get active and, help us along with this journey. So I do want to thank you for this interview, and we wish everyone much success.
Okay. Sir. Peace.
Peace.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Rossi Eason, founder of the Restore Black America Foundation and author of the Restore Black America book. And how this whole thing came about, man, is real interesting. Years ago, I had a friend of mine introduce me to something called the Willie Lynch Letter. And if you don't know what that is, it was actually a transcript of a speech given at a slave owners convention. And it talked about how to control black people, not through force, but through psychology, talking about putting old against young, light skin against dark skin, male against female. And it pretty much outlines all of the problems that we have today. So when I read this plan and I said, if this is a plan to destroy black people, if I reverse engineer this, could we create a plan to rebuild the black community? Hence the term Restore Black America. So this book is actually broken down into a 6-step action plan that outlines a restoration process for the next 100 years. Those 6 steps are culture, economics, family, politics, health, and spirituality. And the way the whole premise goes is that this letter was actually written in 1712, and it said that if you actually put this plan in place, that you'll be able to control black people for the next 300 years. 2012 was actually the end of that 300-year mark. When I wrote this book, it came out in 2013, which is the first year after that 300-year mark. I founded the Restore Black America Foundation as a way to actually implement this 100-year plan. Not only to give people the information, but the actual tools in order to make a change. So basically what I've done is put this book together in a 100-year plan for the black community. Restore Black America is more than just a book. It's more than just a foundation. It's an entire movement sweeping across the black community. So be sure to stay tuned for our documentary as we outline the 6-step action plan for restoring Black America and taking our culture back. Holla.